What is up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of the story of Patra, Rhodes-Wilson. Right here, the only place you can find it is Bowie Films. Make sure you hit subscribe because this is a hot season. Hot, like my breath. It's a little hot. So hit subscribe, stay on top of things, turn on notifications, comment on this video right now if you're sitting at home watching it with nothing to do. As always, like I said, this is the biggest season yet. I'm here with the one, the only. We are here because of her to discuss her life. Patra Rhodes-Wilson, what is up?
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So everybody hit subscribe. Everybody is on top of things. We all caught up. Let's pay some bills, ladies and gentlemen. Today's sponsor goes to Charmin Ultra Large Double Ply. Smells like vanilla scented. Go get you some. Works well for when you want to get rid of those smudges on the screen. Oh no, you know what? That's my co-host. I'm sorry. My apologies, everyone. That is my co-host. Michael Bowie is also here in the building. What's up, Bowie?
What's up, Manny? You know what? I was thinking about it the other day. You and I, we're both wrestling fans. Today's Friday. You know, I rushed home from seeing the new Spider-Man and had to catch SmackDown. You and I, it almost reminds me of two legends in the wrestling game. I would be like the great one, The Rock. If you smell what The Rock is cooking, that legend. And you would be that other legend. That other Hornswoggle. Do you know Hornswoggle?
I know Hornswoggle, Michael.
Oh,
I thought you were
okay.
gonna say Rey Mysterio, but you know what?
No,
That's
he's
neither
a
here
little
or
too
there.
tall for you.
Okay,
I wasn't
all
thinking
right.
him. I was thinking Hornswoggle.
All right.
Definitely. But
Nope.
here we are, episode 2, season 6. Patra, how are you doing?
I am doing great on this Friday. A little chilly, but the weather has been like 60 degrees here in Illinois. So,
lucky you.
it's been 60 degrees for like 4 or 5 days straight. But
Not bad.
It
It's been, I think, maybe 43 here in Michigan. Manny, what's it down on the floor?
Oh, okay. You know, I thought it was a serious question, Michael. Why don't you just take us into the story of Patra Rhodes-Wilson?
I'm going to assume that it's cold down there, Manny. So, looking at last week, we were learning a lot about where you came from and a lot that you had been through inside of your childhood. And I think we made it all the way up to like your elementary school years. And so now I kind of want to move into that next part of your life. Junior high. I guess it's considered junior high. You know, some places consider 6th grade to be like still elementary school, and some places do not. So I think that's kind of where we left off. Tell me, was that inside of the same realm as elementary school? Was that junior high? What was life like inside of the 6th grade for you?
So originally, it would have been considered elementary school. Originally. Here's the thing. I went to a summer camp. Not a summer camp. I went. I was a Girl Scout, so I was a brownie. I went to they had like a cabin thing for a week or two, something like that. This is like in the 5th grade, maybe the summer of 5th grade. When I came back, my mom was engaged to be married to my stepfather, who I had never met before.
To your stepfather, who you had never met before?
I had never met him before. Never met him, never seen him, never knew who he was. And that's when I learned that I was no longer going to be in Benton Harbor. We were moved to South Haven, where he was at. South Haven is a place where my mom was raised. My mom and her sibling was raised. So we got a lot of family there and all that. But it's a very, or at that time, it was very hick. It's very old fashioned. Everybody knows everybody. Doesn't matter your nationality, who you know, or what you were. Everybody knew everybody. And so when I came back, they were engaged to be married, and I was just like, what? So instead of continue on with the gifted and talented, as I told you, that's where I met Willie at, or Will at. I moved to South Haven.
Okay.
And so in South Haven, so in Ben Harbor, 6th grade, and at the Gifted and Talented was still elementary school.
Okay. Talk to us about your stepdad though. That you can't just skim over that.
Well, I'm about to get there. So when I moved to South
All right.
Haven, 6th grade was middle school. So it was culture. It was pretty much culture shock because I wasn't. In my mind, I thought I was going to still be in elementary school, the one class with 20 kids.
Mm-hmm.
But now I got 8 classes, all these different. I'm living on a dirt road. It's not a whole bunch of fresh, like running water or anything like that.
What? What is this? The 18th century?
Depending on where this again, I don't know if it has changed, but back then, this was 96, 95. Back then, it was a dirt road. Like your car would shake when you drove down it because it was a dirt road. Mm-hmm. He owned a house there. It was a 2 or 3 bedroom home, and that's where I moved into.
With your stepdad?
My stepdad and my mom. Now my grandmother, and my great grandmother, who also lived in South Haven, that their road paved. They didn't live that far from where we were in South Haven, so I would stay over there often, obviously, because me and my grandmother and great grandmother, we had a great relationship. So, but yeah, we moved there, and so I had to get to know.
Yeah. So, okay. Last episode, you told us about how you're able to adapt. Was that the case here, or was that something new?
I was able to adapt, but I was upset. And when I was thinking back on it, I was upset because being in the gifted program was amazing to me. Like that was amazing to me. All my friends, I was in music, in Benton Harbor. At that time and for years before, we were known for our music program. So that's where I wanted to be because I knew I would excel musically the way I wanted to there. When I went to South Haven, so Ben Harbor is like an HBCU. The high school I went to, the band I was in, was like HBCU. I wanted that experience. Went to South Haven was more like Western University. It's very, strategic and stick with your moves and things like that. I refused to be in the band because of that aspect. So I went to this school. It was like the first year the school was made too. It was a new school that they created. I went to this school. Everybody like caught the same bus. It was like the middle school and the high school together. It was a complete culture shock.
Right.
And I also hadn't been around that many white people a day in my life. I'm just going to be honest.
Well, let me ask this question just to backtrack to your stepdad. So you move in with the guy that you've never met, who's now your stepdad. Mm-hmm. And so my question is, what was that relationship like at first? And did it grow over time?
It was never a bad relationship. He automatically looked at me as one of his daughters. Now he had 7 kids. He had 7 kids by 4 different women, and 3 of the 7 wives mysteriously died.
Mysteriously died?
Okay.
All 4 of them mysteriously died?
I said so. He had 7 kids by 4 different women, and 3 of the 4.
3 of the 4.
Yes. So 3 of the 4 women.
That's still not a good ratio.
I mean, if 2 mysteriously died, I'm kind of confused.
Yeah. Anyway, don't incriminate nobody. But did that conversation ever come up? Like,
I don't know if he's alive or not now. So
you don't know if your stepdad's alive?
No, that was my mom's 4th husband.
So did he mysteriously disappear, or how did he?
No, he didn't mysteriously disappear. They end up parting ways, and then so I don't know if he's still alive or not. Like I have.
Do you still talk to the kids that he had?
No.
Any of them? They were like your brothers and sisters, though. How long were they part of your life?
So they weren't. They were so much older than me. Like they were like. So I was 11 or 12, like which 6th grade is like 11. 12-ish, and they were like 25, 26. They were even older than my own brother at that time. They were grown. And then he had one that was my age. So he had all these, like it was a big gap. It was a really big gap from like the youngest of the older ones who were adult. He even had grandkids.
What?
Yeah, he had grandkids. So, yeah.
Where'd your mom meet this guy or your stepfather? Sorry,
I don't know. Again,
Okay,
like I said, if my mom is from that's what she was raised at. She was raised in South Africa.
This just
maybe
in,
that's
Patra. This just in, we got somebody in the live chat asking, why did your parents separate?
Because my mama and my daddy used to fight like Tyson and Mayweather. Not Mayweather, but they used to fight. Physically fight. Blood in the ring. It was like a MMA fight.
We heard about that the first episode, but what about your stepfather? Why did they separate?
Honestly, I came home from school one day and he was gone. But we got that's coming down to that's you.
Okay,
You
all right.
asked your mama like what happened to this guy?
I did, but y'all going too far. I can't get.
Okay.
Hey, look, I got questions. I got too many
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously we moved in, and I never had if I can say this without it sounding weird, he was like a real father to me. So once my mother, which we talked about in the last episode, my mother and father separated. My father was never in my life. My mother would try to keep that door open, but he couldn't catch the bait.
So this was the first male role figure inside of your life
who treated me as that was the only relationship with, when I told you that was my mother's fourth marriage, where treated me like where I had like the daddy-daughter relationship, like I was a daddy's girl. That was the first one.
How was he inside of your life all the time, but you never saw these kids that were older? He never talked to them. They come to visit during holidays. Like
I got to, so I was old enough for you. I told you I was a latchkey kid, so I always was a little bit ahead of the game. I never asked because I'm gonna be honest, I didn't want to know. Once the 2-3 wives end up dead, that was enough for me not to ask those. I'm good. I ain't need to ask those because I'm gonna be honest.
That still boggles my mind because even when you die, an autopsy is done to find out what the cause of death is to put on the death certificate. They can't put mysteriously died. His
mom was chief of police, so I don't know.
Michael's killed a couple people in this lifetime. He would know.
Look, I'm just trying to Nancy Drew it. I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know. She was the chief of police.
I know who she is.
Oh, meanie too. Now she was never really mean to me, but she had a very bad attitude. But she was the chief of police, so when you got people in high places like that, anything could happen. I'm just going to be honest with you.
I gotta ask this question because it's a regular topic that we have here on the story of. You said this was going on. You had just moved to South Haven, right? That's in Michigan, South Haven.
Yes.
Are there any Mexican people in South Haven, Michigan?
At that time, no. I had never. At that time, I'm gonna be honest. I probably didn't even know what a Hispanic looked like.
All of the Mexican people that would have been there, they all moved to Southern California. But what I wanted to say was, when did you move back to Benton Harbor?
So when I moved back to Benton Harbor, it was 7th grade. So it was the next year. Okay. My mother and my stepfather, their relationship wasn't in the best place. Okay, which married folks go through stuff, right?
So they're still together. The stepdad and the mom, when you moved back there, they were together.
When I moved to South Haven, they were together. I ended up going on another trip for school or something, and when I came, that's when they were married. So I wasn't even there for the wedding or for whatever. I went on another trip, and when I came back, they were officially married at that time. Okay, so like towards the end of 6th grade ish, like that summer, I spent most of my summers. I talked with my sister cousin every summer that I could, which was every summer I can ever remember. As a child, I spent it in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is where my sister cousins lived. Okay. And that's where I felt the most in tune as being a child. I didn't have to be the latchkey kid. I didn't have to get myself nowhere. I could just be a kid. And so that's where I went in the summertime. So when I came back from the summer of 6th grade, I'm guessing the relationship to my mother and my stepfather wasn't the best. So on the first day of 7th grade, never forget, I had this cute white skirt, plaid shirt. I'm coming again, got this dirt heel. So the heel to our house was like this. So you gotta get up there to then get to the house. And my mama had the car packed. Remember I told you about the car being packed. Told you she packs up car. Car was packed, everything we need, and we left. And I never went back. Went to a shelter.
You were on the road way more than. Wait, did you just say you went to a shelter?
Went to a shelter. Mm-hmm.
When you went back to Benton Harbor?
No, but this is before I went to Benton Harbor. So this is the first day of 7th grade now, right? So we went through 6th grade. I lived in South Haven. That was that. Okay. Now, which I forgot to say, this is the same time. So I'm 10, 11-ish. My brother makes me an auntie. Okay.
The one that's in the gang.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So he makes me an auntie, and then he disappears. So at this time, I remember times where I'm at my grandmother's house, who has been handicapped my entire life. She never could walk. She always was on some type of walker, in a wheelchair or something. I was physically taking care of this baby, and I'm like 10 or 11 years old. I'm getting up, making bottles, changing diapers. My brother is gone.
Damn.
On to the next baby mama that's pregnant now. So, I'm taking care of this baby in the 6th grade, getting up in the middle of the night, making bottles, changing diapers and all that. And my grandma watching the baby while I'm at school. When I come home from school, I would go to my grandma's house a lot of times because we spent my grandparents was lit. So, on my mother's side. So I would go back there and I would help,
Now, I remember you telling me about your aunt. So when you got back, what was the deal with her? Did you see her?
So there was years I didn't see my aunt. I think she moved to New Orleans and then came back years later. After that whole debacle, that debacle led to her and another family member trying to take me and my brother from my mother as if my mother was unfit. And my mother didn't find out till almost the last minute.
Damn.
And that's when we went back to Chicago. And then we ended up going back and forth. Benton Harbor, Chicago, like in school. Like that's why when you asked me, where did I go to school? I went to school everywhere.
Right.
We probably went to school together. All these.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, all different locations where I lived, different, people that I met. And then it became official like in the 3rd grade is when I was in Benton Harbor from the 3rd grade to the 5th. Like that was kind of a decent amount of period where I went to school in Benton Harbor.
So I got another question. Okay,
yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I got another question coming in. They're coming in hot. On the chat here, YouTube. They want to know what a latchkey kid is.
A latchkey kid is when a child that is under the age that they should be staying by themselves or is staying by themselves and taking care of themselves and pretty much has to provide a measures of safety until the adult comes back to their home, to the location, wherever they are.
Yeah. So. I encourage everybody watching this episode to go watch episode 1 where Patra talks about her responsibilities as a child. She's a child at this point. Go watch the first episode. Very crucial. Continuing on though, you moved back to Chicago, right? For the what was this? 8th grade now? We're in Chicago.
So now 7th grade. I only did one day in South Haven, 7th grade. Then we moved to a shelter. And then I moved to another school. It was like Allegan. It was like Allegan, Michigan. Allegan, Michigan is big as this SD card. Like it's super.
I've never heard of it.
It's smaller than
as big as Manny's house, but
Okay, you know what? Uncalled for.
Really small. I would say at that time it was very hick. It was very few African Americans there. So when I went there, I was one of maybe 8 in the entire school from middle school to high school. It was very, very little Black people. And I mean, but you know me, I adapted. I fit in well. Everybody liked me. I mean, it was fine, right? It was fine. And then I got tired of it, and I was just like, listen, Mom. I put my mom to the side because we were in this shelter. And I'm guessing I wouldn't say we were hiding from my stepfather, but she didn't want to be found for my stepfather. So
are you having these conversations as an adult with your moms about why?
We've been having conversations like that since I was like 5, 6 years old because I didn't have a choice.
Okay.
So I'm like,
so then why were you hiding from your stepmom? So why did your mom not want to be found?
Well, I don't think, I don't know. I don't know why we were hiding.
Okay.
She didn't want to go missing like some of the other people.
Hey, yeah.
And maybe she felt like she needed time to think, to see what her mind was. I mean, I'm married now, so I understand some dynamics of being married and being in a relationship. Not saying I would run away like that, but however, sometimes you just need some space to think, to clear your mind, to see what you really want to do, what you don't want to do, don't want to make the same mistakes. However, at that point, she made the best choice she thought was for us, right? But then I was like, listen, this isn't for me, ma'am. And she was like, okay, Patra, what you want to do? And I was like, well, if you did not know, y'all, my mom's name is Patra as well. So she would say, Lil Patra, what you want to do? Also, shout out to my mom. Today's her birthday. So Big P, she out dancing. And I tried to call her, but all I heard was doop 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 in the background. So shout out to my mom. Today's her birthday. Anywho, I said, well, listen, I want to go back to Ben Harbor. So at this time, my aunt, which is my mom's younger sister, lives in Ben Harbor. Okay, so she's been stable, lived in Ben Harbor for many, many years. And I was
can I stop you for a second? Because I told you I'm trying to Nancy Drew this, and I think I solved the case. Did they disappear while they were in Benton Harbor?
No.
Okay, so I would have solved the case right then and there if that was the case.
I'm not gonna say always, but he lived in South Haven for many years. So
okay.
Yeah,
that's craziness.
How long were you in this shelter for?
I would say, let's say 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks.
Okay.
And this was literally from August to let's do August to like this. All this perspired from like August to September. Okay. At this time in September, I was like, listen, I know my aunt would let me come live with her. My aunt only had one child. All right. It's my cousin, my younger cousin. And so I was like, I will help clean, cook, take care of my young cousin, whatever I need. But I need to go back there to Ben Harbor. And I need you to get me into the gifted and talented school at the middle school level, which is McCoy Renaissance. I've always wanted to go there. My cousin Sammy went there, who he was murdered at 16 when I was in the 3rd grade. And so he was a musician as well. And so he was like, I always admired that he went there. He was smart. He went there and he was like, if you want to go there, you got to work hard. You got to, so on and so forth. So that was my goal. Nobody was stopping me from not going to McCourt. However, you need to test into McCourt from the 6th grade. I was not there in the 6th grade. So I'm like, listen, I done all this with you, Mom. I need you to figure this out. I need to be going to McCourt. I couldn't go to King back then where I'm from. There's a school right across the street from McCourt Renaissance called King. King was what you would call the bad kid school. The bad kid school. That was its tradition. That's what you knew about it. Then there was Fairplain. Nobody really wanted to go to Fairplain Middle School. I needed to go to McCourt. That's where all my friends from Gifted and Talented went, was to McCourt. Literally all of them except 2 went to McCourt. So, Mom, you got to figure this out. She said, say less. That's not what she said, but she said, I got you.
Right.
We drove to Ben Harbor that day, and we go into McCourt Renaissance. The principal from Gifted and Talented was now the principal at McCourt Renaissance.
No shit.
The principal says, you don't have to say anything else. We'll make room. She can start today. I had my book bag, and it was my first day of school.
That's what's up.
Now, we had another problem. I wanted to be in the band again, but I didn't have an instrument. So Mom, we're going to fix this. The next day, I had a flute. And that's because that's what I wanted to play. I was self-taught. I did not even know how to play the flute because originally I started playing the saxophone, and I was in the band. I did. I was in the middle school band, which was at that point just as good as the high school band, which is on a younger level. And I started at McCourt that day and stayed at my auntie house.
I want to back up just a little bit to when you were in the shelter. What
Mm-hmm.
was life like with that? Were there rules and regulations?
It was actually, I mean, it was like college dorms. That's what it's like. Like you got food. You did have a time you had to come in. Everybody was nice. Me and my mom had our own room. Like I said, it was like college dorms. We did have a shared bathroom. During the time that you can leave, you can come and go at your own. No men was allowed because I think it was for like domestic violence. It was. I remember that.
Oh, okay.
It was all women with children.
Mm-hmm.
But outside that, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Like it wasn't a bad situation. Like it wasn't bad at all.
Well, the reason why I backed up because I felt like and I didn't want to stop you. We were going ahead in terms of now you're going to school, you're ready to go, you're playing your instrument. Things seem happier. But what I'm looking at is the fact that you're like 6th, 7th grade, and all of this stuff has happened to you. You know, murder, disappearances, with an S, plural. And
also, I'm sorry. I had at this time 7th grade. I'm on niece and nephew number 3, going on 4.
And that was another thing I was going to bring up, that you were helping to raise this brother's child.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that weighed on you as a kid at that it's almost like you missed your childhood because you were dealing with so much stuff that was being thrown at you. Do you not feel that way?
Reason why I didn't feel I missed my childhood because of the summer times. The summer times, I literally from the day I got out of school, like I would have my bags packed and ready the last day of school, which was normally the day before or the day after my birthday, because my birthday's in June, first week of June, and somebody is going to take me to Kalamazoo to be with my sister cousins, and that's where I got to indulge in being a kid. So I soaked up everything I could during the 2.5 months, because I literally wouldn't return back to wherever I was living at until the day before school started, literally. And so now during the school year, I felt like I did have on, which not even realizing it now, I had on a hat of you got to take care of your business. You got to make sure people are safe. You are safe. Ain't no shenanigans. Do your work. If band is what you want to do, you hustle with band. Because remember, I told you I hadn't played this instrument before, so now I got to self-teach myself.
Manny played the flute too.
Manny played.
I don't recall.
It was called the male flute, but he told me about that.
Oh, okay. You know what? No.
But
boo.
No. But the thing is,
I just wore the hat. I wore the hat, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I complained because the times that I did get to indulge in being a child with my sister cousins, that time was so plentiful that I knew when I went wherever I went back to, you got to handle your business.
That's still a lot for you to take on, in my opinion, as a kid, in terms of responsibility, all the way up to 6th, 7th grade. That's so much to have to endure. Did you feel like you missed some of the childhood to be able to go and play or whatever? Like, was there a lot of moments of sadness dealing with a lot of loss, murder, and everything else?
I did feel lonely a lot.
Okay.
I did feel lonely a lot. I felt lonely a lot because, my brother was, as I told you, my brother was born with congestive heart. Did I say that last time? He was born with congestive heart failure.
I do remember.
He had heart surgery at 4 months old. They were expecting him to die and told my mother to prepare your life without him. They were 100%. There was no percentage that my brother was going to live. However, this man is now in his 40s. And so a lot of the attention went to Larry. It went to my brother. A lot of the attention. Now, he would say they liked me more, or the family doted on me more, but that's because I seen what life could be for me if I went the route he went. So I handled my business, period.
Right.
That's what it was. My mentality was, honestly, integrity for as far back as I remember. You're going to do what you're supposed to do because that's what you're supposed to do. I never thought of it as a hassle. I never thought of it another. You just handle your business. I never thought of it as a hassle or traumatic or anything until I became an adult. Now,
That's what that was going to be my next question. My next question was going to be about. I mean, all these things that you just covered in the first and this now second episode, that's not normal for a child to go through growing up. Just the moving alone, like you did not have
I agree.
a stable, yeah, just you did not even have a stable school to go to, let alone all the other bullshit that went on through your life. Like, did it ever occur to you at that point in time, like, hey, this is not normal for
No,
a kid because my classmates ain't going through
cousins,
it?
I had other family, like, honestly, it was kind of like a generational curse. The men who were supposed to do what they're supposed to do for us, the black men, didn't do that. They didn't take care of what they needed to take care of. They didn't step up to the plate. And so I have a sister cousin the exact same way. Exact same way. She had to handle business because the men that was supposed to be there for her didn't do. And so she had to step up to the plate.
So I want to wrap things up here because we covered 6th, 7th grade. Was there anything extravagant that happened? Because I want to kind of lead this up to high school. Anything that was extravagant that happened in 8th grade?
So, what most people don't know, in middle school, I lived in South Haven the entire time in middle school. Mm-hmm. My mother and stepfather got back together. Yep, y'all heard exactly what I said.
Hold on. The stepfather that disappeared, that other people were disappearing, this stepfather?
Yes, my mother and my stepfather got back together. And if you hear me call him my father, because even most people know, like, that was the man in my life. Like, he took care of me. He made sure there was no ever hanky-panky, nothing. Because, you can hear horror stories from stepfather. It was never none of that. He took care of me like I was
there was no hanky-panky because he was doing it with 4 other women. So he was doing all the hanky-pankying.
So he was definitely, if I talked about him, I would call him like my father because my biological father was here nor there. So my mother and my stepfather got back together and we stayed in South Haven for majority of my middle school, I guess, career. They would drive me to and from school to Ben Harbor from Ben Harbor. South Haven is where Lake Michigan is. So whatever code you think you have is nothing on South Haven.
What was that time gap that from when he disappeared to when he came back?
Maybe. So he didn't disappear. It was just my mom left.
Okay, well, he disappeared from your life. So what was that time span between that time period?
Maybe a few months, 3-4 months. And it wasn't that long. It wasn't that long. I would say by Christmas, we were all back together and they were driving me back and forth to school. They were driving me. We would leave South Haven. South Haven to Ben Harbor is about an hour and 15 minutes and some change. But let's not add the winter, the weather, the cold, the sleet, the rain. And they would drive me to school and pick me up every day. And nobody knew. Nobody knew.
Well, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna leave it at here because it's just, first of all, it's a lot to take in. Yeah. I'm gonna have to rewatch this episode a whole bunch of times because whether you're so calm about it and you say that it wouldn't affect you, I think it would have affected me as a kid to have gone through all that stuff. I'm an adult and I still am dealing with shit that I think probably gonna have me fucked up inside of the next couple years. Let's just be honest, okay?
It hit hard, and when I say like hard, like a brick under bricks once I became an adult. So we'll get to that.
We will get to that. I think that we've learned a lot, that we have, pulled from under the rug where Manny usually stays and everything. But the fact of the matter is that, your story is compelling to me because of all the things that you've been through. And I hope that it's inspiring to other people because I know that so many other people go through things and then maybe it leads to suicide. And for you to have gone through all of this and just, I wouldn't say that maybe you went through all your days smiling, but you seem like it just didn't faze you. And I think that shows the word strength and that other people need to have because it's just part of life.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you for sharing your story. I look forward to seeing you next week, where you will be on here to share more of your story as we move towards episode 3. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell. Do all that jazz. Let us know what you guys think. And if you want, you can hit Manny up at hornswoggleisabeast
No,
at
no.
gmail.com, and it all will be good if you want to ever be a guest on the show. Patra, thank you for being the guest. Everybody else, thank you for tuning in. And as always, we will see you guys next week.